How y'all, Wyrm here. So by the release of this video, we're actually just less than 50 days until Endwalker's early access releases. As a result of that, you probably fit into two categories. Either, oh, there's less than 50 days left, I can't wait, or, oh my god, there's less than 50 days left, I'm not ready. Either way, there's a certain amount of things that you'd want to get done before Endwalker actually releases to ensure you're actually in a perfect position to be able to just dive right into the content and play away. I've seen both sides of the spectrum, and when you're not prepared, it's a serious headache and it takes a ton of your time away. So here's a few things that I've actually made a list of, a personal checklist for myself to see exactly what I need to get done, but mainly just to give you my insights on what you can or maybe should, depending on your situation, do in order to get fully ready for Endwalker from your perspective. Alright, first off, confirm what job you want to be maining in Endwalker. This may seem like a simple decision to make, but there's actually a lot more thought that goes into it depending on your situation. Like for example, if you intend to jump into hardcore raiding right off the bat, what job you actually level first is going to be extremely important. But also you want to be able to master your job, because every job is going to go through a lot of changes because they're going up 10 levels and you're getting a lot of skills, and other jobs are getting completely reworked, and two of the jobs are actually brand new. But my point is, just decide what jobs you want to actually main before Endwalker releases, because it saves you a ton of hassle before. Now in that regard, there's a number of things you actually need to take into consideration. For example, if you're going to be maining Sage or Reaper, as soon as the servers actually launch, you want to be able to equip your gear and jump right into grinding from level 70 to level 80. But in order to do that, you need to have the perfect gear ready. So it's good to have a full set of gear actually ready to go before you actually jump into the content of grinding. For example, a full set of gear for any one of these jobs could actually cost you up to 2 stacks of poetics, so that's 4,000 poetics. Now on this subject, you want to find the best method from actually leveling from level 70 to level 80. More than likely you're going to be grinding a lot of fates, you're going to be doing all your dailies day 1, and then you're going to be jumping into grinding dungeons. That's what I did for my dancer, for example. I was grinding dungeons and then doing fates outside, and I was also mixing in a lot of quests that I actually had left over. So I had a number of quests actually ready to go. I was able to pick them, do them really quickly, and then I was able to hand them in order to get me over that goal line by the end of day 1. Now on that subject, loads of people are going to be doing fates at the same time as you, so you're going to notice that the Shadowbringers areas are actually going to be filled with people, particularly sages and reapers, all trying to get up to the proper level in order to be able to do Endwalker content. At the same time, dungeons are going to be a main thing for everybody. People are going to be grinding through them. They're going to be going dungeon, 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 dungeon. But the point is, the dungeons are going to be in heavy demand, so I can't stress enough how much the queues are going to be affected by this. Particularly because two of the jobs being leveled are a healer and a melee DPS. So tanks are going to be in extreme heavy demand, and everybody else is going to be doing Endwalker, so there's going to be a shortage of tanks, I can guarantee it. On to the next point. Start creating level 3 FC buffs. Now, most of us are already familiar with FC buffs, or at least level 2 versions. You actually just buy them off your Grand Company, for example, and you insta-activate them. Level 3 buffs are something different entirely. They actually provide much more benefit. However, a lot more work actually goes into creating them. So creating one of these FC buffs, for example, the total process, if you have all the equipment ready, takes 3 days, because that's how long it takes your ethereal wheel to recharge. So for one of these buffs, you're going to be waiting 3 days. So now that we're less than 50 days away from Endwalker, now is the time to get your FC ethereal wheel actually rolling and getting these FC buffs cranked out as much as possible. Now this actually has a number of benefits for your FC as well, particularly if you're trying to recruit more people. There's going to be loads of people actually looking for an FC at this point, but in particular, people are going to be looking for FCs that are advertising that they're doing level 3 FC buffs. So if you have them to offer and you tell people that you have them to offer, you're going to see a lot more interest in your FC. And if you're not in an FC, that's the sort of thing you should be looking for. Even if you're not looking for a social place to be, just join any FC that has level 3 buffs actually advertised, because they're going to be extremely helpful, not only for the experience, but also for the teleporting cost, for example. On to point 3, clear the space of your inventory. I can't stress this enough. Whenever you're leveling in a new expansion, you're going to get overloaded with new items. They're going to be flooding your inventory, so you want to get your inventory cleared out as much as possible. For example, take a look at my inventory right now. It's full of materia, it's full of food, and it's full of other miscellaneous items from the Shadowbringers expansion. All of these are actually going to be going into my retainer, so I'm going to empty at least one of these pages so I have plenty of room left in order to actually fill it in Endwalker, and I'm not going to have to be concerned about running to a retainer every time I finish a quest, for example. On that note as well, don't forget you have the Chocobo saddlebags as well. If you only have the left one or if you have the right one as well, these are a great space for actually saving a number of items. In particular for myself, as you can already see here, I save gear that I actually get in the actual new expansions dungeons. For example, when I was doing Shadowbringers, I was saving a lot of that gear, like the Lakeland gear, the level 71 gear, etc. for the other jobs I was planning to level. So when you're actually leveling them, it gives you a great advantage for your other jobs. So that's something to keep in mind. Next up, make sure you have plenty of armory space for all the gear you're going to get in the new Endwalker dungeons, and especially if you're going to have to be replacing a number of things, depending on what your current gear level is when you're going into Endwalker. As you can see here, for example, I have plenty of stuff actually in my weapon armory. My head armory is okay, but you're going to need to clear up at least half of these tabs at least. You're going to be filling it up constantly, you're going to get materia out of all this new gear that you're getting. I can't stress enough how much this actually helps you when you actually have free tabs in your armory, because you're not worrying about it at all, especially with all this new gear coming in. And I can assure you, there's going to be a lot of it. The main point of Endwalker has already gone across, that you don't need to worry about belts anymore, so you can actually get rid of those. I'm personally, for whatever job I'm actually going to main in Endwalker, I'm going to unequip my belt and remove all my belts from my inventory, just mainly because we've never actually lost a gear slot before. This is a first for us. So I'm just worried something will maybe go wrong, maybe my gear set won't work or something, some random bug might come up. Anything can happen. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and I'm going to make sure I'm in perfect condition by Endwalker release. Speaking of, if you have a ton of gear actually in your inventory and you don't have that much space in your retainers, for example, you need to start taking advantage of your Glamour Dresser, for example. This thing has hundreds upon hundreds of slots, or 400 slots to be exact, and you can store a massive amount of gear in here. Like, for example, I have tons of weapons, I have a few head pieces, a few body pieces, etc, etc. But this thing is an extremely valuable asset, particularly for glamours that you want to keep and you'll want to end up using in Endwalker, and you're going to have easy access to them when they're in their Glamour Dresser. On to our next point, and speaking of inventory again, make sure you have plenty of consumables ready to go. Now, consumables, I'm mainly talking about food. Food's primary benefit for you at this point is the EXP bonus plus 3%, and you're going to have that on constantly. It gives you a massive buff. It doesn't look like much, but it really adds up in the long term, especially when you're leveling for multi-millions of experience from level 80 to level 90. You're going to see the benefit of it, I can guarantee. Oh, Aetheryte tickets as well. You're going to be teleporting all over the place, and those guild costs are actually going to add up. Speaking of which, make sure you have loads of kill as well, by the way. Next up is an optional one. Make sure you're actually capped on crafter and gatherer seals as well. If you're planning to level up your crafters or gatherers right away, these are definitely going to be a benefit to you. So cap them up as much as you can, but it's not a requirement, and things might actually work out entirely different in Endwalker. You never know what Charlene's actually going to throw at us. The next one is an odd one, but it's actually one that's mainly on my checklist, is to check out your gaming rig or your console to ensure it's ready for Endwalker release. Like, for example, give it a full cleaning out to ensure that the heat sinks of the graphics card and the CPU are fully clear, because you're going to be doing a ton of gaming, so make sure your rig is not going to overheat and ensure it's in optimal condition. So at the very least, just give it a full dusting to make sure all the dust is out of it. But the most important things you'll want to do is to ensure your operating system is fully updated, and also ensure you have plenty of disk space. Now, having your operating system updated is in terms of all the drivers are updated as well. You have the latest Windows updates. Importantly, make sure you have the latest graphic driver updates as well, so you'll want to update that before Endwalker. In terms of drive space, Endwalker is going to take a massive chunk out of your SSD drive as well. So you're going to want to make sure you have plenty of space on the SSD you plan to install it on, to avoid any issues actually when you're installing Endwalker on day one. Now, this next one is particularly important to me, mainly because it's something I kind of take religiously whenever I go to actually playing a new expansion. And what I'm talking about is sorting out any real life stuff that you need to sort out before Endwalker. This can take a number of forms, but I'll take you through personally what I do for myself. So the first thing is I clean my entire gaming area. So I'll clean down my desk, I'll clean down my room, I'll make sure everything's actually fully clear and spick-span, so I'm not having to worry about it by the time the expansion releases, and I can fully focus on my gaming. The next thing I do is I sort any chores the day before to ensure that I'm not going to be bothered for at least a week in terms of actually having to do anything. So this involves cleaning the entire house, making sure everything's working okay, getting any errands done outside of the house. Maybe I need to drop into town to get something or to just actually leave something in there. There's a ton of things that actually go involved in daily life, so you want to actually get them out of the way as much as you can. And you're going to have the day before Endwalker where you're not going to be able to play anyway, so you may as well just actually take care of some of these things on that day. Something I love personally doing is prepping all my meals for the week ahead. So I'll have all my meals ready, I'll have all my breakfast, I'll have my lunch, I'll have my dinner, I'll have my snacks, all ready to go. All I need to do is run to the kitchen, heat them up, and off I go again. Now the most important bit for me is to make sure that my work and my job are sorted out before Endwalker actually releases. Because I'm going to be taking a week off, so some people will be taking a lot of time off, other people are not going to take time off at all. But you want to make sure that by the time you're leaving work, or if you're going to be off work for the week, that you're not going to be getting calls from your manager or your colleagues just saying, oh, this has gone wrong, or where is this? Why isn't this server activated? Yada yada yada. I hate those sort of calls, particularly when I'm on holiday. So I try to make sure that I have every tick box actually checked before I actually leave work when I'm doing an expansion. And I always take the week of an expansion off so I can fully devote myself to the game I love. Now, for example, if you've taken time off, make sure that it's actually confirmed booking and make sure your manager is actually signed off as well. This is not applicable to everybody, it all depends on your situation, but just make sure that your colleagues or at least your manager knows that you're going to be off, or if you're planning to take any time off at all. Importantly, maybe they want you to work overtime on some evenings or something like that, so you want to try and get that out of the way before Endwalker releases. As far as my previous employer was concerned, by the time Shadowbringers came around, I was at the bottom of the ocean looking for treasure and I was out of contact. I went extremely far to ensure I wasn't disturbed by the time Shadowbringers released, and I'm going to go just as far for Endwalker. Oh, and on the last note, set her out of office, it'll save you a ton of hassle. Alright, just a couple of points left now. You'll want to confirm that your Endwalker purchase has actually gone through and you've actually gotten your Endwalker pre-order. Now, I'm mainly bringing this up because of the physical edition of Endwalker. People have been constantly holding out for the collector's edition and it hasn't become a thing for most people. So if it's still sitting in your cart or sitting pending, for example, on the Square Enix store, you're going to want to get in contact and probably just pull the trigger and just buy the digital edition. That's exactly what I did. I was waiting for months for a physical collector's edition to come around. It didn't come around, so I just said screw it. I asked support to actually cancel my order, and then I was able to just buy the digital collector's edition. And also, on the last note, ensure that you've actually activated your code on the MOG station and actually collected your item as well. And the last one, which is most important to me, is catch up on the full lore and story before Endwalker releases. Endwalker is going to wrap up all of the storylines that were started from 1.0 all the way to this point. So this is going to be an extremely important expansion from a lore perspective. So you're going to want to make sure you're caught up on the story just so you understand exactly what's happening and where exactly the story is actually going in terms of pacing. If you want, actually check out my channel because I actually have a load of lore videos and a lot of catch-up videos as well on this subject. So they'll get you at least a bit informed. And lastly, I'm actually going to be making a catch-up video soon in terms of the lore of Endwalker in much more detail. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. Anyway people, that's all I wanted to actually go into regarding my checklist for everything I want to get ready before Endwalker. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider leaving a like, and importantly, leave your opinion in the comments. I'd love to read them and reply to them. Thanks all, and now, as always, have a good one.